And our two trainings that Rui had sent out, or that the state board had sent, and then Rui had sent one, the ethics training and the heat training. I think it's best, rather than try to schedule all of our schedules together and accommodate that if everybody just do the state board training on their own. I think they had a whole bunch of options. One might have started yesterday. And then the same thing with the heat training. It's a short video. It's like 7 minutes. So everybody's okay with that?
So the ethics, Laverne and Al already did theirs. They joined last night. So I have them marked down. If you guys can just let me know.
Do that last night.
It's not very long, is it?
45 minutes.
Yeah, and I heard, that's what I heard. It was less than an hour. So if you just let me know, that way I can tell State Board, Baltimore County, we did what we're supposed to do. And then the heat training, I think everybody's told me they took that. So, right, except for Crystal. It's, Will said, it's 6 or 7 minutes. Let me know, because I had to report to the county that we all took it. And do you want me to talk about that right now, real quick? I know that the state. Oh, there you go. Okay. Idea. The state is also implementing heat prevention, illness training. So there might be we might have to do something else. Right now, we've met all the county requirements. I'm just letting you know, if I send you another one saying, watch this training, it'll be a short one again, but it's mandated by the state because we're both state and county employees. We gotta do things twice sometimes.
All right, and then one little quick change. Here's where we usually ask if there's any additions or changes to the agenda. So rather than, we're gonna move 5 up to number 2. Are there any changes? Not. Welcome again. Good to see everybody's face in person. No delays when we're talking on the virtual option.
Oh, yeah, that's a good.
So the minutes were sent out electronically. Did anybody have any issues with them? Did anybody see anything that needed to be changed? I know Laverne said that they were good on what she saw. Did anybody else have any questions or anything? If not, Laverne, can I take that as a motion since you?
I move that we approve the May 28th minutes.
Is there a second? Second that. All right, motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. We'll jump right into our director's report.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. President. So, okay, so things are going really well. There haven't been as many meetings, but you can see there's still a lot going on, even though we're in an off election year. I keep hearing from not just election directors and administrators from across our state, but from across the country, how much elections has grown, conducting elections has grown, and there's no such thing as an off year anymore. We've always known it took 15 to 18 months to prepare for an election, but we've never had so many things that need to be done prior to the start of the election year. So we've been very busy. We've also been trying to get in as much training as we can now, because obviously during an election year, we can't do a lot of training. We held that operational TTX that was conducted by the elections group, and it was a huge success. Every one of our county agencies that we partner with to conduct the elections team, with the exception of budget and finance and HR and payroll. And that's, even though we partner with them very much because we have to hire 4,000 people, there wasn't a lot of reason for them to come to that operational TTX. But every other agency was represented. There's about 132 people total here, including the people that conducted the elections. 8 or 10 fellow jurisdictions came all the way from the Eastern Shore, where Comico County, Queen Anne's came, Frederick, Montgomery County came, and they also brought in members of their emergency team and different people from their county, because they are going to mirror our command center in Towson and our operations center that we have here in the office. So that kind of felt nice that we were used as an example. But it was also a very, we thought, we heard a lot of feedback in ways that other jurisdictions do things, but having those other partner agencies here, they saw what we go through. They only know all the buildings have to be open and they have to be locked, maybe. Maybe that's what their purview is. But they saw that we're handling floods and electricity and suspicious packages and suspicious voters and protests and Girl Scouts and, all kinds of stuff going on election day. And they were able to give us some feedback or make suggestions, which were very much welcomed. And the elections group and I are coming up with like a summary of the event, and I'll provide that to you all because it was very interesting. It was interesting to hear like Major Fisher from the police department, who I work with very, very closely through the entire election cycle. It was interesting to hear him give me the feedback on, we use this program to help us determine the best routes. That's something we can implement during the election. If you remember, in the primary of 24, we had that road closure at Jacksonville early voting site. So Rita couldn't get back with the supplies because of the storm and a tree got knocked down and there was no open road from Jacksonville. What area is that? Like northern Baltimore County, it's a lot of back roads. And DPW was able to tell Amanda, because I'm directionally impaired, so they told Amanda which way for her to go. Well, the police actually have that program too. And them hearing some of the injections that happened during the event, they were able to say, in the command center, if we had that program up on a monitor, then your board president or Al can help you all decide if it's very much traffic on 695 right here and we're trying to get to a ballot box location or something, you all can see that on the map and give us a heads up. Hey, tell your ballot box team, don't go around 695 by Towson, maybe use, 83 or whatever it is. So that was a huge benefit, I thought, because it's gonna grow our capabilities and our interactions, the command center for you all back to us here, and then also just with all the other agencies. So we learned a lot. I thought it was very beneficial. I wanted to let Kimberly and Amanda talk a little bit about, they were both a part of it, so I wanted to let them have a minute to share their feedback. I know that the state board came, they were very impressed, but I'll tell you, this was my favorite part of the whole event. The whole day was wonderful, but my favorite part of the whole event was we all met back in here because we spread out. Like the command center was in my conference room, the operations center was in the war room, the polling places were in here, and then we had the two-way radios, just like we use during early voting and throughout the election and on election day. A couple people were making comments either from other agencies or other jurisdictions. They were saying, yeah, but it's really sped up today. Like the injections that were happening very quick. It's not really like that on election day. So like Amanda and I were listening to it and we're thinking, yes, it is. Yes, it is. But us saying, that didn't, but so every one of the injections, and the elections group does not know, it's not like we spent in total, all the things that's happened over the last 4 years since, 22 and 24 and the last 4 elections. Every one of the injections has in some way occurred in Baltimore County, every single one of them. At the end, Major Fisher recognized that. And he also said, he repeated the comments because he said he had heard a couple people say, well, it doesn't really happen like that. Like the news doesn't come while this is going on or what. He said, it absolutely happens like that in Baltimore County because we have a radio in the command center and we hear the election channel. So we know that's exactly what it it's like. You could hear maybe the director ordering, telling how many pizzas we need while she's handling the flood, while Amanda's deploying equipment to like 8 precincts. It's all going on at one time. And that kind of, I think that made me feel the best all day, was when Major Fisher said that at the end, because he said it is really like that, which is what makes an event like we held so important, because the more we practice it, the more things become second nature. So rather than having to, and I think I've had this discussion with the board when you guys have asked me like training or things, areas I need to improve, being able to just respond more quickly when things happen without having to like, okay, there's nothing wrong with taking a breath and thinking, but the quicker and the more natural the responses come, and then the more they flow, then it serves everybody better. So that's my takeaway from the event. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
The only thing, cause I was at the help desk, like we have the phones that dropped at, over in the section. I had that area during the TTX, and it was in, the supplies. Those were the two things I was overseeing, and everyone, we had incoming calls and everything. I mean, it was that, interesting and that live, in my opinion. And a couple people were just sitting there, and I'm like, oh no, we gotta get up. We have to get down. And they're like, we do? And I'm like, yes, that's part of this training. So they didn't really have an idea of how much this was involved and how much, and they were like, this was great, because they learned things. There were people in there from Queen Anne's County, Frederick County, that didn't know some of the things. They like, I've been in election 10 years. I didn't know we could hire judges on election day. They learned that from just being there at the help desk. So to me, it was really good. But the election group are absolutely amazing.
They did a phenomenal job. Absolutely did.
Mhm.
Did you have anything, Amanda?
It was nice to put people out of their elements, like,
Yeah.
I usually work in judges, now we're going to operations center, like taking people out of their elements, because sometimes on election day, you only see what you're doing right then and there. If you're only at the help desk, okay, well, what happens on the other end? So you get to see the trickle effect. But also the other agencies that came, remember the guy that Rec and Parks reached out to us about smart sheets. Like there's other programs out there that others don't use that could probably be beneficial for their agencies. It just depends on how you want to use it. So it's nice to just collaborate with all different types, because then you get to see who can give you what.
And that's a good point, seeing what the other agency or department has to do. I know that it helped me somewhat, because like when they talked about polling places that weren't unlocked yet, that we had to bring in property management and schools. So then we could see what they have to do to make it happen. And then they see the effect of the school not being unlocked on our side too. So that's a good point. We got to see, through the other agencies' eyes, and they got to see it through our eyes. So it's kind of cool. The elections group, this was the first of its kind when they brought in other agencies. They've only ever done tabletop exercises with election officials. But so they're now they're going to structure this and do this across the country in other jurisdictions, and that's kind of cool. Besides that, we've, just been doing it's just been kind of the routine, regular meetings, like we had the computer audits were done, the monthly computer audits. A highlight of something that's coming up, and we actually started it this Monday. It made us press pause on starting telework, not because of anything internal, but we were gonna start telework, but then I got the email from the county saying, hey, Rui, it's time to replace all the laptops. They're out of warranty. And I don't know the schedule, because sometimes it changes from 3 to 5 years, and they never let me know till it's right before it's time to do it. So I didn't know that I was gonna get that email. They're ordered, and starting next week, they're gonna start replacing. Not just about all of the laptops get replaced, and I think 1 or 2 of the desktop computers are out of warranty, and they'll be replaced. on all of the desktops that are not being replaced, which are the majority of them except for one or two, we had to install the Windows 11 upgrade, which also fell at the same time we were going to start teleworking. So it looks like teleworking is going to be pushed to start July 1st, but that's okay because everybody has been taking off. So everybody's been off a lot this month so I think everybody's good with that. And then also we had to do a big project with the E40 report. So having to do that put us a little bit behind on our regular work because it was a requirement that's now required by state board. And that was a huge heavy lift. Every single voter that requested a mail-in ballot and then for whatever reason didn't vote that ballot but voted provisional, and we had 25,000 provisional, of which probably 10,000 or more asked for a mail-in ballot but ended up voting at the polling place. We had to find the VAC, the provisional ballot envelope, or the mail-in ballot signed oath, which we had 200,000 of that stuff in boxes all. Remember, we packed it up for attention? So we had to pull it all out and look for that because the state board now wants those VACs scanned and attached to the voter record. We're finished that project, but that's another thing that put us a little bit behind on our telework. As far as the election equipment, the annual cleaning of the state server and the SWIM network happened. That's all the state equipment and election night reporting stuff that's in the war room. So, you know, we lease that stuff. Baltimore County doesn't purchase it. It's leased. And the people we lease it from come and they do the cleaning. Of course, Amanda blows it out and we keep it clean. And then actually, when I got the email, I said, you guys can come, but there's no dust in our room. You can come clean it, but there's really nothing to clean in ours. But they came and did that. That's been done. Both of our copiers, you know, the copiers that are in the open collab area by the back door, both of those are also out of warranty. And what the county does when the equipment's out of warranty is it gets replaced. Unless there's a reason and I say it doesn't need to be replaced. For example, we have a few printers. There's no sense in getting a new printer because we don't use it that much or whatever. But those two copiers are being replaced. One is a black and white, one is color. And it's always been like that since we've gotten two, which was, I don't know, I think we got two right before I left for Cecil in 19. But this time I said, wait a minute, why we put so much strain on the color one because we have to print so many flyers and everything in color. Why are we getting one only black and white when the cost difference was just a couple dollars to get the color, both of them color? So we're getting them replaced. And that's going to occur the second week in July or so, with both of them being color. The CMOS batteries, which are the batteries that go in the ballot marking devices in the DS200s. If you remember, this equipment was leased through 2025. The intent was to have new equipment for 2026, but that's not happening yet. They're just starting the procurement process. So in order to make sure our ballot marking devices and scanners can make it through the 26th election, the state board wants to replace all of the batteries that are in them, which we agree. So ES&S, the people that the equipment is leased from, the company, they're going to be here towards the end of, or no, in August to start that process. We're going to assist them, but they're going to be responsible to take out the old ones and put in the new ones. So that'll begin in August. As far as the procurement process for the voting equipment, it's kind of exciting. Amanda was selected to serve as an advisor to the state board and in regards to the new equipment that the state's going to purchase for statewide elections. So Amanda's one of 3 people across the state that will serve in the advisor capacity. During the process, I guess you guys probably all know this, the information she learns has to be confidential until it's public who was awarded the contract. But having her in there through this whole process, giving our point of view is huge, I think.
I agree. It's
Yeah, so I'm thankful to Amanda for accepting, because it is gonna mean more work and more meetings on her, so I appreciate her saying yes to that. More information on that, but it's not gonna be information on like who's bidding or anything like that, but any information she's able to provide, she will provide throughout the process.
I had a note for that. Is it substantial time? Is the state board compensating in any way, shape or form, or, what's the trade-off? Because, I mean, I know it puts us in the ability to make comments, and we're a large county and these type of
That's
things
pretty much-
impact us.
That's pretty much the trade-off. Now, when they asked me first and I talked to her before I responded and I said Amanda's first response is, if there's a choice between joining that meeting or doing something for Baltimore County, she's gonna pick Baltimore County every
Right.
time. So they understand that. They also understand that we are gonna get busier. And Katie had said that all of the stuff that they talk about on the meetings will be, provided to the advisors or whatever. So Amanda said that she can handle it, and she did say the provision, unless it takes up too much time. If it causes her to have to work overtime to get her regular job done, she's not doing it. That's pretty much what I told them, because they're not gonna pay her for
Right.
that comp hour. She's just gonna lose them. And then that's what I said to her, and thank you, Will, for, bringing that up and mentioning that. But that is a caveat, and we did put that provision in. Did you have anything? No, okay. I'm still waiting on the new law book. Sorry, Laverne. As soon as they get in, I'll let y'all know and give you your new law book. Voter registration is going well in where we continue to, do all the processes we're supposed to do with the ERIC report, AOC, DHMH, but at the monthly oversight, critical oversight, and jury list and all the fuzzy reports. We also are continuing our manual audit of individual voter records. And that's what I'm missing I didn't get any of the handouts. So you guys have your sheet, right? And remember last time Will was saying, well, for the corrections, like how many of them are maybe voters that shouldn't be voted, or how many of them are double voters or whatever. And I said, well, let me find out how hard it will be to track that, because I didn't want to slow our team down. So what I did was I figured, okay, they don't need to, you all don't care if it's a phone number we had to add, or if the apartment number was 16 and we put 61. Those you don't care, right? So those are like typo edits. I said, if it's anything other than a phone number added or a typo or something, then you need to,
If it's
track
going
it.
to cause somebody not to be able to vote, or somebody to potentially be in there twice, that's the things we want to know.
Yes, so down at the bottom of this report, Kim added a section called audits. So we still are providing the number that we've done, so we're up to a little over 10,000. We've had a little over 1,500 findings. For a little over 1,400 of them were missing cell phones. Now, I want to let you know why that is. Up until 2024 primary, it was not a requirement to put a phone number. Now it's a requirement. So although it's not technically a finding, because there's no way to grandfather those in that didn't get a phone number. We're adding the phone number now, even though we're not required to. We are, because then we have it in there, and because that's the procedure. So the phone numbers really isn't a finding, but we're still tracking them. Other findings are, like I gave the example, if it's apartment 16 and somebody put 61, or if it's, I don't know, South Outwood Drive and they put 5 Outwood Drive or whatever, or a
Wrong image.
or an image is attached to the wrong record, which happens sometimes with like fathers and sons with close names or whatever.
So are you all consistent with abbreviating? So if you have South, do you put the capital S, or do you spell it out, or STH, or do
We're
you?
consistent because it's a choice.
Okay, it's a box.
So
Okay.
yes, it's a box. So it's like a drop down. just like street, road, avenue, that's a drop down too.
Okay.
So those are consistent, yes.
Can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
Notice that 10,000 was how many records were done between May 24th and June 13th. I am going to have them add a grand total as to
Running
date.
total for.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that that was the case. So does anybody remember the number we did last? 12,000, wasn't it? So that means we're a little over, almost to 23,000 records, which if you compare it to the 700,000 we have, doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about the effort it takes to look in each photo record, that we're doing pretty good. We're getting there.
We reported one more before that too, so it's a little bit higher than that.
Right. So, and then other findings, Kim can explain, well, that's what you just explained. The other findings were, I'm sorry, say it again, Kim.
It could be wrong images, it could be duplicate images that they just clean the record up, anything. But Amanda and I added in the work log for them to just give a description, if anything, in addition, they're to give a description, so we're seeing if there's anything that's critical that would cause a double voter or prevented someone from voting. And if that happens, we'll report that on during that month. We just didn't want to put it on there and just keep it as zeros. And as you see with the merges, well, remember we were asking if it was 2 voters or 4 voters the last time. I had them start taking that it was 4 records that merged into 2. So it was still the 2 voters, but they each had 2 records. But in the comparison of it in the research, we noticed that the voting offset each record. So
The person didn't vote twice.
not vote twice.
Find that too.
That's why it says 0 for double voters.
So how many people are verifying
How many people are
it?
the
Data,
merges?
Uh-huh.
It's 4 people in here that work together on the merges. To
Very select people can merge a record.
So there are 2 sets of eyes looking at, so somebody.
6 sets there's 6 total eyes looking.
So
It's a three proof.
what I'm saying is that one person is not doing it, make a change, but you got everybody looking at the same time to make sure it's right. Okay.
Yes.
I actually saw all these records, all 4 of these, and so did Cindy. So it wasn't determined without everybody looking at it.
I was asking because just in case somebody put something in, so we have a backup system that there's more than one person looking at the audits to make sure that they're being done.
Yes.
And also the nice part with mergers, the history doesn't go away. So everything from both records are going to reflect in there somewhere, whether it's the history, the images, or whatever.
So how many of y'all doing today?
Well, hopefully, they go for the potential dupes. That's where we're getting the merges out of. They did almost 4,000 in the less than a month.
So we're doing all 3 things
That's how it's happening.
simultaneously, and that's what Kim and Amanda set up on that work report. So they rotate. So like in the morning, they might do Oliver's, the online voter registration, or paper batches for an hour or 2 till that's done, and then they move on and might do some duplicate records, and then later in the afternoon, they do some audits. So she's rotating it with everybody in the office. So everybody except for us, the management staff, is working on this at some point throughout the day.
So does the workflow seem to be moving?
Yeah, they actually like having the break and doing a little bit, prioritizing what they have scheduled on their work duties for the day from the schedule that we created, and then dividing their time and doing a couple hours on each one. And and I'm gonna add a to-date grand total on the dupes as well, because that wasn't on there. Because we've done probably 18,000 potential dupe records we've already looked at as well.
Question. Do you know what happens when a duplicate is created? Like what's the cause of the duplicate?
It actually, sometimes it's human error, sometimes it's the voter not giving us enough information to determine that it's actually the same. And I can give you, for example, the one gentleman actually registered his first, middle, last name with one date of birth. It was February 14th of 65, but then a month later sent in another one giving the first name, the 2 middle names, the last name, and wrote his date of birth that was a month off.
So then That questions me because then how come it wasn't checked with
The
another?
first one was entered a long time ago before we had like the verification now that we have with the social security, MVA and all that. The second one verified correctly. So anybody, I've been registered to vote since I was 18. So whatever I signed and did when I was 18 is what's in there. Cause I've never been canceled. I've never not been in the system, right? That's a long time ago. Don't want to say how long. But back then, they didn't have the cross verifications with social security, the MVA and things like that, right? In 1996, we talked about the law where with the non-citizens, where the MVA, if you're a non-citizen, you have a different MVA number. But if you have an ID or a license from prior to that law in 1996, you're not going to show in the MVA as a non-citizen. So after 1996, you show by your number that you're a non-citizen. It's kind of the same principle. Most merges are recent additions where somebody got married and re-registered to vote, and it might, MV voters catches a lot of them with the last four of the social and the month and day of birth. It'll come up and give us the message possible dupe. What happens is we're in a hurry, we rush and we just say no, and register them to vote.
But we didn't do that this time. This time, the MVA sent us both of these in Oliver, electronic. MVA actually gave the same person two MVA numbers. But with our process that we're started doing, we were able to find that.
And like, how do you verify that it actually isn't two separate people
Well,
that live in the same household with the same name and a different date of birth?
And that is,
well, I know there's no twins that's a month apart. I do know that. I've never known of that to ever happen. But also you have all remember we used to get full socials back in, when we first started the scanning and attaching. Those images are still on there. So there's enough pertinent information in there. And even though we're not signature experts, you can tell a lot with signatures and previous addresses and things that there's enough factors that you can cross-reference.
and if we're not 195%, we don't merge and we'll reach out to the voter. Hey, did you get married or, did you move or do you have a previous address and then match it up that way somehow? It's very rare we find where somebody voted under both records. So they probably don't even realize they did it, that when they did it,
If it retains the history, my question for these particular two is how long have they been doubled in the system?
well, we would have to look at Oliver to see
So,
what Oliver came.
6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
And one of them, it was over 5 years.
So, and I can tell you this, prior to me becoming the director, Baltimore County did not do manual audits of possible dupes. That was not part of their normal process. We added that, what was it, like the general of 22? We added that then as a standard in our office. It's not a requirement by anywhere in Comar and law, but because of that, we said, okay, it's worth doing this check. Although the reason it's not a requirement by law is because, like I said, the system pops up and says this is a possible dupe. But it's too easy just to hit no to keep going rather than stop and look it all up. So we along with pendings, we implemented the duplicate review. Of course, it slows down a little bit when we get real busy because we don't have the resources to do it, but then we pick right back up along with the manual audits to catch things like this. So most of them, if they are, it has not happened in the last 4 or so years. And I was here prior to 4 years ago. So I'm not blaming it on anybody. I'm just saying it's not a standard, but now it is in our office and that's how we're catching them.
So hypothetically, if we go through the entire voter record database, we guarantee that now we've touched every single one, and that might take a year, 2 years, whatever. Is there a way that you can filter your system to say, anything added from this day to this day, now we're gonna check again. That way, you know the old stuff is done. So if you touched all 700,000, then you know they're never gonna be an issue because you've touched every one already. But in that time that it's taken you to do that, we've now gained 40,000 more. Can
then
you
we-
set the system
This, then start on the 40,000.
to the
Yeah.
40,000? So that way
We can do that.
and that way we know like, these are good. Now these 40, we've touched individually each of these. So then we just have that rolling database. So we would never have to do the whole data set over again. It's just from a particular date
It
forward.
would just be forever continuing.
From a particular date forward, never the old batch. Once you've continued, once you've gone through the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. So just leaving that on you to remember. That's what we're gonna.
Yes.
But I know we can do it because we can run voter lists or MIB lists, like I run, who asked for a mail-in ballot list, maybe before early voting. And then at the end of early voting, I want to see again, but I don't want the whole list. I just want to see who did it from this point to this point, and we can do it. So she'd be able to run that and be able to tell which records to check.
Touching each record. Let's say you touch this record and you look at it. Are you doing various searches just to make sure? Are you doing social security database? Are you doing all the stuff just to make sure that that person is good? Or are you just looking to make sure there's no doubt? So are you verifying that this voter is not in the mental health as deceased, is not social security deceased, is not moved out of state? Are you checking all the databases for this one voter?
There's not enough time in a day to do that, or in years to come, because we're not connected with all of those. So we only can go by and reference the information that's being provided to us.
And hit, and do the verify on the record. But I mean, that would take, I'm not saying it's not worth it to do it, but we have years of DHMH dead people lists that we'd have to search through for each one. So, if they're older, then yeah, they do it. And that's just a natural. We do that anyway. When it gets slow, Rita, will go through and run a report of anybody that's 85 or older. Not that 85 is old, but we do, 85 or older, and then we verify those. We do that. But as far as, no. However, when you pull up a record, you can see that the person verified. And if it has the last four of the social, the birth date is correct and it matches the image, you know that it did verify.
You have everything in your activity log. The nice part, though, to add on to what you asked, is that everything that we process every single day moving forward, we proof that every day. Everything that gets done is proofed. So everything is being touched once or twice for the most part. So, but you can filter it and put a date in, like everyone that registered from when we started doing this. And I can export just that information. So yes.
So are you tracking those things that are repetitive that you see? For example, the social security number is not right, the name is not right, so staff can be aware to check these things?
I can tell you this, that actually in the proofing and in the work log, they actually have to put in their corrections that they made. Whoever's proofing, they put in the ID number, what they corrected, and actually the person that processed it. The supervisors get all of that in a report. I go over it and we make sure if there's repetitive mistakes being made by some person, then we definitely address that. And we're going to start implementing some trainings let's train something at every Mindful Monday that I see in the report that people are making the mistake, just to refresh it. But say maybe once a month have voter registration, and it's all like the top 10 things that we've seen for that month. You know what I mean?
What Kim has done, I didn't mean to cut you off
Okay.
but what she's done is she's charged the supervisors with checking to see those corrections, right? So, okay, so the person enters their work log. Whoever proves enters any corrections they have to make. And if it's a person that, everybody makes a mistake, makes one mistake, but the supervisor's responsible, and Kim goes back and reviews to make sure, okay, Snoopy has done this same mistake 3 or more times in the last week, then the supervisor has to go go over and, let the person know, you might not know this, but you're making this mistake. And then Kim has charged the supervisor with noting in their work report to her that they saw that those corrections needed to be made and that they've taken these steps to address it. So that when I ask her for her work report, when she reports back to me, she can give me a summary and say, this was going on, but that's been taken care of, or whatever. So we are definitely holding everybody accountable, and without me or Kim or Amanda or Cindy having to go to each person and worry about each person. So it's
Monthly report roughly?
weekly.
Weekly, okay.
And when they put it in weekly, they put it in per day. So each day they report what they've done, how many records they've audited or whatever. And believe me, it is not popular. We have some people that really are not liking being held accountable, honest, I'm just being honest. But it's working. It's really working. And it makes it easier for the supervisors and the management team and then me to know what's going on and who's doing what. And whether we need to have, okay, maybe we need to have an everybody training on this because it seems like everybody's a little confused on this process or something. So then, like she said, we're adding those into our Mindful Monday team building meetings that we have every Monday. And it seems to be working. And I'll tell you, yes, we have some people that aren't liking be held accountable, but we also have many, many that are loving the structure and the fact that they know what they're gonna do and they know how to proceed and they feel more confident in their daily duties and stuff. And that's always a good thing, because then that increases morale.
Yeah.
So it was maybe a little bit hard to swallow in the beginning for the team because they were kind of used to it being like it's been for 20 years. But it's been what, 2 months or so? I think everybody, and I know the supervisors are able to answer her questions because I question her because she's the administrator, she's the operations administrator. So I question her and she needs, and the supervisor, now she's able to give me the answers a lot quicker, and the supervisors like it because they have an idea and know what their team is expected of their team for that week or that day or whatever.
And we did ask the staff, our teams, and all of them, a lot of them do like, they have a purpose. They know exactly what they need to do when they get in. They know everything. It just makes their day go a lot smoother. And I think it's been a plus ever since we implemented it. Don't you? I do.
Yeah. And we have a record, a written record that's submitted by that employee. So if they need improvement or they don't get a good evaluation, we have a written documentation that's submitted by them and reviewed by the supervisor, their direct supervisor of their performance, their work performance for whatever that evaluation period. So we can say, well, you're the one who you submitted that you've only did this many things, all week long or something. And I think that's the other thing. Before that, we weren't really tracking like how many batches or how many things that the people were doing. Now they see it in black and white. And of course, it's human nature to always want to do good, right? Especially when you see it up on the screen and you want to, I did 1,000 this week. Next week, I want to do 1,200. So I think it also gives people a sense of pride in their work.
And we've all worked in places where people got away with stuff and it made you as the good employee feel bad too.
Yes.
But the good employees are now like, look, I'm doing my job, have always been doing my job, but now they're recognizing it. And the people that aren't making my job harder. So that, it's good
Recognizing
all
that.
around, right?
That's a good point. Yep. Okay, so, all right, moving on. So, the president's executive order, if you remember a couple months ago, the president, issued an executive order directed to election agencies across the entire country. And that order pretty much said for the United States Election Assistance Commission to develop a process where all voters had to prove their citizenship in order to register to vote. That's basically in a nutshell what the executive order was. As soon as the order came out, California, Maryland, and I don't know how many other states filed a lawsuit challenging the executive order. The court ruled on it, and I'm gonna turn it over to Josh. I emailed it to everybody last week, but if you wanna explain in lawyer terms what it says, but basically, from my understanding, I'm not an attorney, it says we don't need to worry about it right now. It doesn't stand, and the EAC isn't to take any action right now.
That's exactly what it means. So it's a preliminary injunction. So what happened is the executive order was issued. 13 states, including ours, filed a lawsuit, but when they filed the lawsuit, they also asked for a preliminary injunction. If a court finds that you have the high likelihood of success and that you'll suffer irreparable harm by waiting for the process to play out over years, they can issue a preliminary injunction for any civil case. So what they did basically is they said, look, this executive order is probably not going to stand. It's blatantly illegal for all these reasons and it's unduly burdensome. So we're going to pause the enforcement of it right now. That doesn't mean it's been struck down.
Right.
That's just an early thing. It's still going to get litigated. Obviously, something like this, where it's California versus the executive branch, is going to go to the Supreme Court. The judge that decided it was a Massachusetts federal judge.
So why did they go to Massachusetts? And you don't have to answer me if you don't know, but
That's probably one of the states.
the leading state. Why did they pick Massachusetts?
I don't know why it ended up getting
Oh,
documented
okay.
there, but it doesn't matter because whoever was going to lose is obviously going to take an appeal, and it's going to keep going up, and it's going to get decided by the Supreme Court on their time. What it means for us directly as Maryland is what that executive order compels. Apparently, our software
Doesn't do it.
doesn't do it. So we would need a whole new either update, which goes into all the citizenship stuff, or to dump all our operating software and get new operating software, which obviously cannot be done quickly. So that was Maryland's claim for irreparable harm and one of the reasons why we got held off. Basically with all that stuff, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. So we're just sit and wait, and whatever they tell us to do, frankly, we'll do it because we have to. So,
Is state board looking into the alternatives in the meantime? Because they're gonna have to act fast. Are they looking into the software updates and new softwares and pricing and getting things like that?
Yes, they spoke to it about this long at the at the biennial meeting. They are looking into how we can, with our current voter registration system, how we can make it work. Because we also have same day registration, which adds a twist to it, right? So they are doing that, something similar to what we already do when we scan the application to the voter record. We'd scan whatever document it is, driver's license, passport or whatever. So yes, they are looking into how the current system can use, but also it's time for they're also in the procurement process for a new voter registration system, but they don't expect that to be through the process and implemented to 28 or beyond, maybe even 30. So right now it's the MD Chris and poll books are the first two, and then it's voting system and voter registration. So yes and no. Yes, they're trying to come up with a plan just in case the powers that be say, nope, you got to do this. And yes, they are also the new system, whether this executive order gets passed or not, the new system will have some type of ID or whatever capability or something. But that's all we know so
What's the
far.
likelihood that something is going to be pushed to the Supreme Court to decide something by the next election?
I have no idea what their time frame is going to be. All that stuff's expedited when it comes up. So it's not like you send something like this up to the Supreme Court, goes back in 3 years with a decision. I think the way it normally goes with things like this is what is in place now at this preliminary injunction will probably be the status quo until it gets to the Supreme Court. So what usually happens in cases like this is a court will say, so this court will issue a ruling that says, look, this is our final ruling. But then they will, upon request of the party, basically stay that ruling right away for purposes of appeal. So boards of elections like ours aren't running back and forth and changing things. Oh, well, one court says this, well, one court says that. So it'll probably be a situation where opinions are issued, but then stays are immediately issued with the opinion. So the opinion doesn't go into effect until it gets appealed, which is good for us. Because that way it's not like, all right, well, every 75 days, there's something new and this pendulum swinging back and forth. So this will probably stay like it is until the Supreme Court rules on it. That is all out of our control. So the best that I can say is until we get a final ruling, nothing will probably change until then. Even if a court says, oh, no, that's right, they'll probably stay it just for purposes of appeal. So,
And then whenever it does come to fruition, whichever way it's gonna go, if it goes where it's not gonna be implemented, then we don't worry about it. If it goes where it has to be implemented, the way the order reads is the EAC has to develop the standards, and then the whole country has to follow those standards. So even if tomorrow they were to say this order is in effect, we still gotta wait for the EAC to do their thing. So it's still gonna be a process
It's gonna be a
after
long
that
time.
process, you know?
I wouldn't worry
so-
about it for our gubernatorial.
Yeah, and then the EAC, when I went to the meeting, originally this was on the agenda when I went to the executive leadership meeting. And they removed it from the agenda because they decided they better not talk about it because of this lawsuit. And they're actually one of the defendants of the EAC, even though they didn't do the exact, because they're charged with taking action in the executive order. But I know that they're doing some preliminary thinking. What if we have to move forward in this direction or this direction, just like our state board is probably is doing the same thing, so, but because yeah, we have to wait for all these other people to do their thing before we know what we can do. We're kind of in a.
And obviously their focus is more on presidential elections, with all the stuff that it is with like our next gubernatorial election here in Maryland. I think frankly, that the people that are driving this focused as much on the local races as they are on the national. So that's probably the time frame they're concerned with. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. I just know that it's all very confusing to me when we go back and forth. It's hard to keep up.
So hopefully they just issue stays then and we don't have to change things as it just go.
And I'm knock on wood, if they wait till December to tell us something like this, that's gonna make it difficult. That's gonna add one more thing to this, our state, but us, because we're already gonna be fighting the clock with redistricting. So I'm hoping that whichever way it goes, somebody's able to say, don't worry about it, this is not gonna happen for the 26th election, or sooner rather than later, they say it's gonna happen, this is what we're gonna do. So I kind of don't want that part to drag out. Does that make sense? We already have so many challenges with the redistricting. So,
I think it just come out tomorrow and be like, oh, well, 13 attorney generals and Department of Justice have reached an agreement. It's entirely out of our control, but like you said, with the stays on appeals and things like that, that should at least keep us from running around, and it's gonna fall to the state board first and foremost. Not gonna.
yes,
it's
first the
not-
EAC, then the state
Oh,
board,
yeah,
and
right.
us,
It's
yeah.
not executive order directly to Brewery.
Right.
Boy, it's the state board is gonna have to implement all those changes, so we'll.
Yeah, because it's a statewide voter registration system.
Up to them.
Yeah. Okay, so, the election judge and training department, I talked about this before, where we are starting to restructure, reorganize that. And remember I said we're upping our game in the training. That process has just started, but we're fully going to be in that process towards the end of July. But I've made some moves within the office. For example, Casey is now in the room that Kim used to be in. Kim's on this side, Blair's on this side. Dana's back in her, in the cube that was designed for her. But the election judge department, is gonna be fresh and new and restructured. Hopefully, the whole plan will be implemented and in place by the end of August, and then we'll start the process with notifying, judges to see if they're gonna come back, and then we'll, implement the new training and the videos and things like that towards the end of the year. Nothing new on the redistricting and also nothing new on standard operating procedures. We already talked about the heat illness prevention policy. So the way Baltimore County's policy reads is each agency has to have their individual policy. Right now, because we're not in an election year, it doesn't really affect our agency as much. We will have a policy that mirrors the county policy. For example, if it's 80 degrees or hotter, I'm gonna have bottled water for the ballot box teams. During early voting, I'm gonna make sure there's bottled water for the judges that have to be outside because our primary is in June in 2026. So all of those things we're developing a policy for our office. Like I said, this year, we're kind of inside the whole year, but next year we will be outside. We'll pay attention and we'll follow the same guidelines that the county follows, which is 80 degrees, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, and you have to do different things for those. We're gonna have a cooler with bottled water and ice by the drive-in dock when they bring the ballots back. It'll be sitting there for when they leave. They can take some with them. It'll be there when they come back. Things like that we're gonna implement, and we already, Kim, Amanda, and I have talked about lots of ways where we can implement the policy in our office. Once I firm up the exact policy, I'll give you guys a copy that I have to submit to the county administrative officer. The state, the ethics, we already talked about that. So I don't know, Will, do you want to talk about the next one, this one?
That's the one we're doing. That's your PAP, right?
No, this is
That's
the
the
state
one.
Yeah,
Oh, the state one. I've been copying Derek on everything that, state board said that they were going to implement reviews of the directors on a rolling basis. So we were notified that Rui was picked and they wanted to meet. And I was very strict and adhere to, look, you're going to do this. Rui needs the evaluation in advance that you are coming to present here for her to review before you come here. I've made that very clear in an email. I gave them a deadline and a date, and in that same email, I said, if you do not make this date, then we will consider moving. I'm not gonna have him come and hand her a document in a meeting.
and because it's pretty comprehensive too, so, which I very much appreciate, that having the ability to review it in advance. And,
It's a shame because even having it in advance, she didn't, because she was told, oh, we're gonna judge you on how you played baseball this year, but we're gonna use basketball's rules, because that's what they did. They did not present something and say, you're gonna be graded on this for this year. Here's your jobs and duties. Here's what we're gonna grade you on and let you do it. They came in and said, oh, by the way, January to December, we use this and we're gonna use this to judge you. Did you
for
talk to this?
2024.
Did you talk to this person? Did you respond to that? We're gonna grade you on these things based on what you did last year, but we're telling you what it is now after it's already passed. So that's why we wanted in advance for her to review it and look at it and talk to us if there's any discrepancies, because we will address them with him. If he does, it's July 30th. It's very clear. If he doesn't make it by on August 1st, I'm gonna send an email and say, you did not make the deadline. You are not coming to our meeting. Because he's gonna try to come to our meeting and
The August 27th meeting, Will told him that meeting, because what happened, okay, so it's the new Maryland law. So the law basically says the state board needs to do a review of the director's performance. The law was intended to be a review of regulation and law. Did Baltimore County follow this law? Did Baltimore County follow this regulation? Did they meet this deadline? That's not what the state board has done. So it's very, is it
did you
objective?
respond to our emails timely?
Timely, right.
Well,
Did you
when-
complete
We're
surveys?
in the middle of an election, she's not gonna reply to an email. So if they're
Right.
gonna grade her on that, we're gonna say something about it.
Right, so there's almost nothing in the rubrics that they're using that refers back to any of Comar. Like, you certify 10 days after the election, you start your mail-in ballot canvas 2 days after the election. None of that is even mentioned. Like, Do you meet the monthly critical oversight audit? None of that is in. Is it objective or subjective when it's kind of, if you like it's subjective and it's supposed to be objective. That was the legislator's intent, but it's not ended up that way.
Is everyone, are all the directors getting the same?
Yes. Yes, and there is a paper, and I think he had planned to share it prior to the August 27th meeting, an outline of how they're gonna score me. But pretty much it's more than just my performance, it's the performance of our entire team, yeah. Which, I mean, that I am the director, so it is on my shoulders, but that's what a lot of it is. I don't expect to get a bad one, but I'm thankful that Will has taken the stand saying, it's not really even fair to say to a person after the year is over, okay, this is how we're gonna evaluate your performance for the previous year. Usually it's the other way around. You have a position description, yes.
Benchmark is supposedly.
But we didn't find it out until December of 24, and they didn't give us the final until January or February. And then what even makes it worse is in December, I forget. In the beginning of this year, they sent my personnel stuff to Gloria because they still had her listed as the president rather than Will. So for months, Will and I had no idea that Gloria was set, and they didn't. Gloria, I guess she didn't respond. But anyway, they didn't know that they had sent, well, I mean, they knew that they sent it to Gloria, but they didn't realize they didn't send it to him till I got the email saying we were picked, or I think she sent it to both of us saying that Baltimore County was picked. When can Jared meet with the board? And Will was like, wait a minute, you need to give me a little more information, like what's the rubrics, what exactly? And then she said, oh, I see why you don't know the information, because it was sent to Gloria Mason in this month. And I wrote back and I said, Gloria hasn't been the president for 6 months. She hasn't been the president since the beginning of October. But anyway, that's neither
Don't worry.
said
I'm
now,
gonna bring up,
but that's
that's personnel records and stuff going to someone else that they should not have done at all. That's a clear violation of stuff they should have. There's no reason for them not to update their database or to do what they did. I mean, I could understand if it was days, but it was October till January.
So, and like I told, again, I know everybody makes mistakes, but like I told Katie Berry, Gloria notified State Board directly that she quit. So she notified State Board, and I notified them that you got appointed. So, I mean, it just, I don't know. Anyway, that happened, but I'm thankful that the board, I want to go into the evaluation with an open mind, because anything that's gonna help us be the best we can be. I certainly want the feedback and the input, but at the same time, I do believe in being reasonable and fair, and I don't think the way that they've done this is reasonable and fair, not just to me, but the other directors. But anyway, so that's what that is, and that is tentatively scheduled August 27th. The August 27th meeting, Jared will be here.
They'll come to our meeting, and then we'll go into closed session at the end, if he gets the information to her by July 30. If not, then we can look at September or October, or whenever they get it to us.
Can I just say thank you? Because I've been around many years and I've never seen the support of a board that I've seen since I've been in Baltimore County.
That's awesome.
So that's nice to see and be a part of.
Yeah, State
I
Board.
think they're so supportive of our whole team. And I even mentioned that during the TTX, because they were complimenting us, and I said, well, it starts with my board. It's like a domino effect and goes down. I have an awesome board.
We appreciate that. I mean, that's what we're here for. State Board can, if it's law, we understand. And we don't have a problem with law and regulations. We do that phenomenally. When you say reply to my email and we don't because we're in the middle of a catastrophe going on, I'm sorry, but the email's not important, because the email will be there 2 hours later. It'll be there the next day. And it's for dumb stuff. It's nothing important. And I've seen some of them. We've talked about a lot of them. Oh, I want to know how many bottles of water you gave out. Well, guess what? That's not important when we're in here canvassing. So if we're going to get judged on that, we're gonna have a say, because we're gonna run some defense to make sure that it's done properly. There's special treatment and fair treatment. That's all we want.
Yeah. So the other things going on with, personnel, there's, we welcome back, Alex. I don't know if you remember Alex, but she worked through the county staffing. She accepted the county position. So we welcomed Alex back. We were excited about that. And then, you know, every time I say we have no vacancies, two people retired. Linda retired. She had a lot of personnel and health issues. So we had to say, we hated to say goodbye to Linda. She's going to move back to Massachusetts or Michigan or Maine, one of the M states, not Maryland, where her family lives. And then Craig is retiring, at the beginning of September. And then the board said there, you know, there's gonna be people that aren't gonna like the accountability. We had one person, quit. It's one of the couple that we thought would, do that. So that person's moved on. It was a county position, so it's pretty easy to fill, and the recruitment for it's already started. As far as the state position, Linda and Craig's, I also have Cindy's old position number, you know, because she accepted the deputy, which left her program manager position vacant. I'm gonna reclassify that to an entry level or a lower classification, and we'll start that recruitment. I'll be able to attach Craig's vacancy when he hits his September 1's retirement date. So that, hopefully those recruitments will just roll, and I'll be able to fill those 3 spots with no problem at all.
Do you anticipate with the greater accountability more? And if so,
One more, maybe, I'm thinking.
1 or 2 more, I think.
Yeah.
county positions, so it'd be easier to get through?
One's county, one's state. But either way, that's okay. We have a plan, and we have a solid group of people that like working here and like the accountability and like you said, like to see accomplishments. And they at the end of the week, they say, wow, I did all that. You know, so the majority of our team is on board, and I think the morale is very high in the office. And it's crazy because the people that are leaving are the people that were the more negative and brought morale down. So it's
Not that
kind
we
of
want-
working itself
Not that
out.
we want any more burden and more work on more people, but now's a better time to do it than 8 months from now. And
Mhm.
Yeah, yes, I absolutely agree. And I say that to everybody, you know, if somebody, you know, elections isn't for everybody, and it's hard. It's not an easy job on an election year. So if you want to move on, and I will support you if you need a letter of recommendation or whatever, you know, but just please let me know, give me a heads up so that I'm not caught off guard or we're not stuck. And I'm hoping that would happen. But like I said, I think we have some pretty solid people in solid positions, moving forward. So with the reorg and all that's going on, everybody's really kind of taking their new role or responsibility and run with it, I feel like. Do you guys?
Even our new
Same.
hires.
Oh my gosh, and our new hires, they are doing so well. Not only are they just like adapting, but 3 of them helped us with a big project that normally you have to get somebody that's been through an election to understand what you're doing. And they helped with no issue, 3 of them. So our new hires, remember Cody, Trenton, Breon, they have like really stepped up. And I'm excited because that's gonna help Amanda. Because Cody and Breon are gonna be able to help her with equipment. You know, when we have to do election results for the write-ins, you know, we have to manually count the write-in election results, and they get entered on a spreadsheet. Now Amanda has not just Gordon, but she has 2 other people that understand computers, that understand Excel spreadsheets, that understand all that stuff. And they seem to be just jumping right in, and they really seem to like, you know, the atmosphere and the team. And Breon got reclassified. He was one of the ones, even though he's a new employee, he got reclassified. So they're appreciative that we notice that they're doing a good job and jumping in, I feel like.
Absolutely.
I already talked about the teleworking. Okay, so remember I mentioned that we joined the Baltimore County Summer Youth Employment Program. So 2 students are starting on June the 30th. We're excited to have them. They're gonna work 25 hours a week. I'm gonna work with them. It's up to them. Do they want to work 5 hours, 5 days a week, or do they want to work 3 days? You know, so I'll let them figure out their hours, but it's exciting. They're gonna sit in the two, they call it hotel cubes, the ones that are in the open collab area by the back door, those will be their cubes. So they're gonna start on June 30th. They will need to be administered the oath. So we can maybe do it virtually, or if Al feels like swinging by and doing it the first week in July or something, or Will, if I can set a WebEx and you can do it virtually. You guys tell me, just know I'm gonna need it done. Just not July 4th. So it's up to you if you, I know you don't want to drive all the way here to issue a 3-minute oath.
Al, can you coordinate letter?
Okay, so Kim, keep that in mind, or Tisha, keep that in mind, because Tisha's helping me oversee that program, that we just have to reach out to Al and find out when he's available to come by. And then every year, we talked about this last year, and you might not remember, the governor's appointment office tracks the board members' attendance and, no, I don't want to say performance, but that's what the email said. Attendance and activity and your input on the board. And unfortunately, they charge the director of the agency to report that for all the boards and commissions that they have across the state. So it's kind of like I have to report on you all. And you're my boss, so I shouldn't, but anyway, I'm in the middle of doing that. Of course, everybody, you're doing, everything's great. You'd be surprised the number of meetings that you attended during 2024. So if you want to know that information, I now know it because I have to tell them how many you came to. And for your general information, whether you attended virtually or in person, it's just attended when I give the report to them. If you want to know exactly what is said to them, I can copy and paste before I hit submit to you. Let me know. Of course, I have an awesome board. Nobody didn't show up and do what we needed them to do during during the time period. So there's nothing negative to report. That's what I'm saying. I just wanted to let you know, I do have to do that, and it's due this Friday. So I'm gonna do it this afternoon or whatever. I wanted to let you know I'm doing it before I actually submitted it. But that is going on. And then Crystal, I made sure in theirs, they know you didn't start till November 1st, because if you look at your days of attendance compared to Laverne's, it's, hers is like 3 times as many, but she went through the whole primary and the beginning part of the general. You started right before the general, I think. So I made sure I noted that yeah, on yours, I made sure I noted appointment date was like November 2nd or something. And that you attended every one. I don't think anybody's missed a meeting, altogether missed a meeting. Everybody either attended in person or virtually or whatever. But anyway, I wanted to just let you know I am doing that, and I have to do that. And like I said, let me know if you want to see exactly what is submitted to the governor's appointment office. And then the last thing is, I'll talk about this in the closed session. The last thing is just the upcoming board meetings. I have a question, but I'll ask that in the closed session. And having said that, I've completed my director's report, and I welcome any questions.
Questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Go into board council.
Well, we already talked about the federal litigation. The only thing additional I would say is as to redistricting, nothing definitive is happening, but the redistricting commission submitted the A map, not B map, A map to the council yesterday, and the reporting on it seems to be that it is I think the banner said that it is DOA. And just for I know I assume most of you know this, but the way that it works with the redistricting is, they can only have two people who dissent from them. And the way that the political division is in Baltimore County, each party has more than two people represented. So right now, three people, three councilmen have said that they don't approve of this map as submitted. So they're going to go back and achieve their bipartisan.
Which map are we talking about, the first or the second?
The second.
Second.
The first,
Rejected?
right, the first they didn't submit. So this second one that they came up with is the first time they've submitted it.
Right. So that's the one they submitted yesterday is from the redistricting commission that they impaneled after the first map was, I don't even know where that first map came from. I think one of the
Izzy
councilmen.
Pataka.
Yeah, from one of the councilmen. So that map is still alive, the initial one. And that is, so basically, once they submit a map, it's basically a viable candidate amongst the other submitted maps, is the overly simplified way of putting it. So Izzy's map is still alive, although not probably politically viable. This one now will be alive, and then they'll keep working on it. They have to vote by October as a council. So they do have some time here now to keep working on it and achieve some sort of bipartisan agreement. But that's the only thing that's really on our radar, because this federal stuff is it's not the kind of thing that we really get hurt by at a very short-term basis, because there will be rollout time and implementation time for any, obviously, software changes and things like that. This redistricting map, I think, could be a little more of an aggravation for us the longer it gets drawn out, but that's really it as far as our legal issues go.
And well, the timeline for them, the council to approve the map isn't until October.
Right.
Because even though the commission submitted the map to the council has to do a public hearings and different steps before they approve it. But, so like Josh says, we're still a long ways off from knowing where we're gonna be.
If it's going to be a real problem before October, we will know. Everybody will know. It'll know probably by September if it's really going to be a problem.
Yes.
Getting this where it's got to be. Because what we need to do is, once they approve it, that's when the outside interest groups will then file their lawsuits. So it's not just, oh, we get the county to approve the map and then we're home free. It's once they approve a final map, then that's going to get challenged. That'll be expedited up to the Maryland Supreme Court, but that's still even.
But even expedited, it's gonna be very difficult. I have to certify, I can't remember when I have to certify the ballot, whether it's March or April. But that's only a couple months. I mean, redistricting takes 4 to 6 months to do. Ballots have to go out. I have to develop the ballot. The ballot has to be certified. All of those things have to happen way in advance.
The timeline basically.
The October timeline is super tight. So, and so I'm looking at it like, yes, whatever map is put forth, somebody's gonna challenge it, and the judge is gonna order us not to do anything until it's
So take
Laid out.
take all your vacation now.
exactly.
From October,
December, yes.
by the time they come with it, until you're not gonna have any, because you're gonna be
Yes.
killing yourself. And then GIS knows that they're gonna be
Yes.
very much tasked with
Yes, helping us.
everything,
Yeah. Well, we move it.
but then graphing it or whatever.
Yeah, they help us with the map and you have to do a written description, like this precinct line goes from like Hereford Road, 801
Manhole.
down to this manhole,
Yeah.
over to the stop sign, back to the fish place.
The timeline that they set up was going to be tight
Anyway,
in the best case scenario. So still on that schedule, but we get off of it for whatever.
Any further
And-
discussion on-
yeah, the chances of somebody challenging the map in court are very great. I mean, they did for every one of the maps in 22, councilmatic, legislative, and they all got challenged. So that's why we're planning the way we're planning. So we're planning for the worst, and if it ends up that the map goes through and everybody loves it, then we, you know, we're still ready. But either way, we're gonna be ready, but
Can we go through that? If they approve it in October, you said 4 to 6
The
months.
council.
Council,
normally it takes 4 to 6 months. In 22, we had to do it in 3.5 weeks because of all the lawsuits.
okay. So
The
that-
judge
that's
ordered
my
me not to
question.
move one line and,
So, but we still have a primary in 26?
yes, yes.
So you, now 4 to 6 months that you estimated, I think you said.
That's how long it normally takes.
All the legal, the court cases and everything?
No,
That's just the work effort that you have to put.
that's the work we have to do.
Once somebody carves that map in stone, whether it's the Maryland Supreme Court or whoever it is, then we have to run around.
So the best case, 4 months from October would be October, November, December, January, February.
Which would be like running very close to,
April, 6
But-
months.
which is why Will said what he said. So that's what redistricting normally takes. Regular 8-hour day, regular 5-day work week. But like in 22, we worked, I don't know, 3.5 weeks. We worked 19, 20-hour days straight for 3.5 weeks to get it
You
done.
were State, federal,
We were just doing I'm sorry, we were doing, yes, we did all three. Well, I mean, congressional, we did all three.
but this time,
Legislative and councilmatic both got held up in court.
would the congressional districts be affected by this redistricting?
No.
Just the councilman.
Not the districts.
So in theory, you still have to do
You still have to touch every record,
one, but,
touch every line. Yes, yes.
okay.
So what we do is we have to look at, okay, so whenever the map is made, we know our election lines, they never move, right? Election districts never move. Then congressional are on top of that, then legislative. I have those. Then, once the council, then we put it over top and then we decide, okay, now this precinct isn't right here, now it's right here. So we have to move all those addresses to the new line. So in effect, we manually verify and look at almost every record, but we do them by street. So it's not like I have to move like house number 1, 2. It goes by the street. So we know from 1 to 13 is now in this precinct. Then we would move. Does that make,
I understand, I do understand what you're talking about.
okay.
Sometimes what he says, I get concerned about.
Oh.
Talk like a lawyer, sorry.
I know you can't say for sure, but typically, once the lawsuits hit how long does the court usually take to make a decision?
Well-
All the lines where they make a ruling.
There's 3 courts, that's the problem. So Baltimore County Circuit Court would be the first ones to hear it. They will move along pretty quick. So
And after the approval,
A month last
a
time.
month, 30 days before you actually get in court.
that's,
And then it went to Glen Burnie or Annapolis. Glen Burnie, what's in Glen Burnie? It's a higher court.
Annapolis.
Annapolis.
Yeah, Annapolis has those, both the appellate courts are down there.
Okay, that's,
And they'll move along quickly, but they don't. I mean, I would think that from the time that Baltimore County, if they actually vote on a map in October, 60 to 90 days until we get an actual like final, this is the map, Maryland Supreme Court ruling that says this is what it's gonna be.
Is there any prohibition for how long someone has to bring a suit? So, you
you're
would,
gonna wanna bring it right away.
how late could somebody wait? Could somebody wait 30 days after? Could somebody? So, I mean, what,
You could wait. Oh, you could always challenge things under constitutional laws. But the problem is for specific elections, as we found out last time, you can get mooted, which means you waited too long. There's not enough time to effectuate what you want. We can't do what you want. So these people that file these lawsuits are not going to be like the lawsuit we had where they didn't know how to file a preliminary injunction, things like that, because they were doing it on their own. These will be
No,
actually.
it'll be like the ACLU
It'll
lawyer.
be the ACLU, it'll be the
Had it-
NAACP.
Yeah,
Right,
they
right.
know
It'll be the same people with the same lawyers. It's just what they do.
the NAACP, that's,
Yeah, this is
and
ridiculous.
they know what they're doing. So,
These lawyers that do nothing but redistricting, and they're good at it.
So do you see it going past the Maryland Supreme Court?
Well, everybody can file for cert to the US Supreme Court. They're gonna be loath to get into a county redistricting matter. So if somebody did file something up, I would not expect them to grant cert.
What happened last time in 22, it got to the appellate court, the higher court. And that judge, they had a conference with both parties. And that judge says, well, what about, okay, you want this, the county council. What about if we do this? And they came up, that's how they come up with the map that we actually used. Because the judge,
So why don't they just do
and
that
it's
now?
the same judge that
Why don't you save the time and do it now?
ruled in
It's the summertime. What are you guys doing? Let's get to it.
that judge, it was the same judge.
Yes, I know her.
Right, and believe it or not, we got billed for, 22 redistricting, because we always have to get outside counsel that specializes in redistricting. I don't know, 8 months ago, because they're still deciding who's gonna pay for what. Now, even though we have nothing to do with it, but because we're a party to the suit, our lawyer has to attend these.
$1 million in attorney fees last time they did redistricting.
Yeah, these crazy conferences. But anyway, that's how they decided it. Then we went into court and the judge officially said it in the courtroom, but it was decided at a conference. And in 22, a lot of people were still skeptical with COVID. And so it was by conference. It's
Let's get
video.
that judge to meet with the
The
NAACP
judge's name, she's the same one
There's only
that
like 6 of them.
the Kate Sullivan.
and just have them work over the summertime and come up with a map for it.
The problem is because that's a federal judge. So.
But
we
she's
gotta-
pretty smart.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
the
she
sides
gets,
to
she
see.
gets all the, I'm having a block on her name right now, but she,
Be something.
yeah, I'm just forgetting what judge it is, but she is,
Every time I've seen her rulings, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
she's young for a federal judge because they have
Yeah.
lifetime appointments. They don't retire like state judges. And Judge Gallagher,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
She seems to be getting all they basically, all these judges down in Maryland and Greenbelt have basically decided that she's the expert. And she seems to be the one that gets all this stuff, which is a good thing because you don't want these federal judges that maybe never did this in their life professionally before they became judges to have to relearn. You don't have to relearn it every time you have a judge and then you get inconsistent holdings and things like that. So she'll get it. The problem is it has to go from Baltimore County Circuit Court to the Maryland Appellate Court to the Maryland Supreme Court. And then, because you need to exhaust all your statutory remedies before you can petition for federal review and all these other things. So you have to go through the state issues.
And each time our lawyer, because we had to have a lawyer, because I was sued, Baltimore County, Nikki, because Jared wasn't Jared then, and the state board. So all of us had to have an attorney. It happened so fast. Our attorneys filed things saying, need to hurry up and make a decision, set a date, because she has to certify the ballot by this day. This is what needs to happen. So they file whatever those motions are called to hurry it up. So it all happened pretty fast.
Motions are short in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. So if somebody says, so if the law says, all right, you file a complaint, if I sue anybody, they have 30 days to file an answer. Well, I can file a complaint and I can file a MTS, like a motion to shorten time, which basically like, look, this isn't some car accident case. I don't have this time. This is an election. This is something like that. Like there's a reason why they shouldn't be given 30 days. All the things that Linda Dorsey Walker didn't do, which is why
Right.
we were able to drag it out and then bring her into court 2 months after the election because she didn't do all that stuff. These people will do that stuff, which will move it along. The problem is we can't really do much to goose it along. We're just kind of along for the ride.
Well, except for file a motion to hurry up.
Once they
because-
name us, we become party and things like that.
Yes, which they will, because the judge will tell me, don't move any lines or anything, so. But anyway, that's it, that's, does anybody else have any other questions or?
Filing deadline for candidates for county council.
February 20, it's a year and a day after the day it started. Like February 26, 26. So if it was February 25, 25, then it's February 26, 26.
So not knowing what the district lines are going to be come February,
That would be an issue.
then you have to change that date.
And that's one of the things that our attorneys last time argued, because that same issue got brought up, and they expedited it. they expedited the court case so that it did get finalized by a week after I think it was a week after the candidate filing, but that's one of the deadline or one of the things. So what our attorney does, the state board, and will also help us with, is part of the motion will be extend the deadline for candidate filing in Baltimore County.
But this wouldn't impact somebody running for county executive.
No, it would only be for that contest or any contest that have to do with the district, because I think the delegate, not the delegates, the
Board of Education.
Board of Ed and what are they called? The central committees. They all matter with the council districts. So it would, extend the deadline for any of those that matter. And I'm going by memory. I can't remember exactly what had to happen or whatever, but I know our attorneys are very involved in that because they went over in line with them. So they were very involved with that. And 22 got, I think we had, I don't know, an extra week and a half or something.
How can you declare your candidacy for a district that may or may not exist in the area where?
That's where I'm going.
So right now, anybody that files for the county council, we let them know that we do not yet have a map, so we can't move. We don't have 9 districts, we have 7. So they file in the district that they currently live, and they get a letter, a notice saying that once the lines are established, the 9 districts are determined, will be automatically moved to that district. That's what we had to do.
You have to refile for that.
They have to refile, no.
They have to file in the district.
You file for an office, not for, so you're filing for county council. So wherever you live, whatever district you're in, that's what it is.
That's the one you're gonna.
So if you're in 5 now and it becomes 9, you're in 9.
Year 9.
Okay, okay, that,
Yeah, and actually, Al, that's a good question, because in 22, we had to do the same thing. There was the council lines and the legislative lines were both under scrutiny with the court, going through the court system.
okay, that's fine. Now,
There was a candidate that filed for, and it was the Kathy Klossmeyer senator race. Ended up moving so then he was running against her. When he filed, he wasn't. When the district happened, then he was, and he withdrew because he wanted to stay running in his other district, and I couldn't let him. So,
okay.
yeah.
That's-
That's more of a
It's very
burden on the
confusing.
candidates. Likely because they don't know what their electorate is gonna look like, where they're running, and that's a burden on them, but
So some of them are going by that
Sure.
first map that you talked about, and then some of them now are going by last night's map, because they'll come in here and ask us for a list.
well,
And I have a voter list for District 9. Well, we don't have a District 9. So they have to tell us like all the precincts that they want. But then I explained to them that precinct might not be those voters in another couple months. So it is very confusing.
I'm not sure this is important at this stage, but I got a phone call from a potential candidate for council asking my opinion of map. There's no map to have an opinion on. But at that point, I advised him that I was a member of the board. He did not know, so I couldn't comment any further than that. But I just, I just, where am I, I get these phone calls from these potential candidates and
I mean, I
Well,
don't.
that was a good answer.
Yeah, and the answer really is, I mean, because it's not like we're the ones submitting the maps. So we're kind of, I mean, we're there to advise and counsel when the director goes there to these meetings, but we don't have any control over this. They could come back and do whatever. So if somebody says, well, what's my council going to look like?
We have no idea.
And we have, not only do we not have any idea, we basically don't even have any input into the process. So we're completely, they could come out with a map tomorrow that's just looks like a tic-tac-toe thing that somebody threw over Baltimore County. Like, we have no control over that. And we don't really, short of them asking our input, we don't even really have any advance notice of what these maps are gonna look like.
I mean, there's times that I've looked over the years, I've looked at redistricting maps and I cringe because I see all the cuts and stuff. So when the lines cross in a weird place, or then you have like 10 voters that are kind of in a precinct by themselves, or, and we
Outside of
want to
the
say
fray.
so bad, why move this line, but we can't. Move this line over just a little bit.
whoever puts them out has to consider the population in a
You're
particular.
supposed to, yes.
There's so much
There's a-
case law on redistricting and voter districting at the state and federal level over the past, basically since the Civil War, you know, that unless you really do it and do nothing but redistricting, it's just, there's so much that goes into it. And you're balancing numbers of people, access to polling places, size, it just, all these different factors go in, and there's multi-part tests for everything. And trying to guess where these lines are gonna finally end up after it gets rung through the courts is a fool's errand, I would suggest, and especially from our position, we're kind of just stuck waiting for what they hand us at the end.
One of the ways that they, or what they're supposed to do is look at natural boundaries and existing associations or communities, neighborhoods, streets and things like that, but they don't always, that's what they're supposed to. But we learned in 22 that that's not, we have a condo that if you live on one side, you vote in one council district, if you live on the other, the same building, but it's split in the middle. Deer Park Elementary, if you vote in the cafeteria, it's one district. If you vote in the gym, it's the other district. We have a road where if you live on this side of the street, you're in this legislative, if you live on this side. So they're supposed to follow things like you said, population. They're not really supposed to look at party, supposed to look at like population and the demographics and natural boundaries, but that's not always, it doesn't always follow those natural lines.
Maybe I'm getting too far ahead, but do you anticipate adding early voting locations?
Right now, I'm not sure, but I will have an answer for you in August. Because right now I'm looking at, having 12, but I'm looking at keeping it at 11 if possible. But if we need to go to 12, I'm looking at what that would look like in the county. So around in August, I'm gonna have maps and different, like, if we use these 11, this is how many voters we'll reach. You know what I mean? Like I've given before. I'm just not there yet. So I don't know that answer all the way. I'm getting there. There's the new community center. There's 2 new community centers, and there's a existing community center that I never even knew had been there for, I don't know, 8 years or whatever, that we're looking at. So all of those different places, I'm setting up different scenarios to show the board. And then you all approve the election plan. But my plan is to give you like 3 options, and then you tell me what option you like the best, and then go back, and then I'll develop the specific plan, and then bring it back before you for a vote to approve. And then I also will work that in conjunction with the ballot boxes, because I have some ideas about moving some of the locations for ballot boxes where they might be better. You know, right around the corner is a better idea than where it is. Do you know what I mean? So things like that I'll bring to you in August.
All right. Any old business? Any Mayo conference comments
Well,
or?
so Laverne had asked us to give an update. I didn't stay for the Mayo conference because the agenda. I did stay for I was there for the biennial. They had it was a very packed agenda, and they did have some stuff that was beneficial. The training on like canvases and stuff like that, we trained the person that gave the training, so but it was very interesting, the security people that they had there. I thought they talked about mail, and suspicious packages, and it was a different perspective. Those were the highlights for me. I don't know, were there any highlights for you that other than?
I attended a couple of sessions, the one on emergency response and preparedness, and the counties that you said showed up, we were bragging about this county was gonna be doing a demonstration and they need to attend. That was good. It was a scenario-based session where we broke out into teams and tried to provide a continuity of operations plan around a scenario that they had, like, okay, the county is shut down because of a snowstorm, or a certain polling location can't open because of XYZ. So we talked about what the actual plan should be and what counties are actually doing. Another session, where Sarah David and the state came.
Oh, that's right.
About
Citizens. Yeah.
non-citizens and duplicate voters and what's going on currently in the state, regarding verification around that. So.
Yeah.
What about you, Derek?
Same thing, I did enjoy, well,
The pizza place was, no, I'm just kidding. That was really good.
we're just meeting different people from the other agencies.
Yeah.
So this is my first one. So meeting the other individuals and, kind of listening to some of the things they go through. And, you know, but we don't, but some of the things they go through, but.
And I enjoyed the little game they had. I mean, it wasn't a game, it was like a scavenger hunt for pins.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. So I ended up getting all of them and I put it in a shadow box in my conference room.
I got on the
Yeah.
back too.
I'm waiting for Prince George's to mail me mine.
That's the one we didn't get.
So Amanda printed out a really little one and put scotch tape on it to make it hard. So it looks like I have PG too. Just ask Amanda for a PG, she got you.
I reached out to Wendy to ask for 5.
We'll get you a PG. And I mean, it's the Mayo conference, no one, oh, who stayed? Lanice and Blair stayed, but they both didn't have a lot of,
Cindy and
Lanice and Cindy, that's right. Blair went for the biennial and she didn't want to stay. Lanice and Cindy, neither one, they didn't bring a lot back because I asked them, but it just, unfortunately, the agenda just wasn't, no. So,
Sexual harassment training as well, very long and dragged out.
and
But
unnecessary.
nevertheless, they had to do it.
Oh, wow.
That was actually on my list. They're down here is, I know we're supposed to do that. And when I put in for the waiver, they bounced back and said, oh yeah, we'll make sure to give you the sexual harassment training, but I've not seen anything.
Well,
I'm not gonna ask for it.
yeah, we're being recorded. So they sent the training saying that if you, for the ethics, here it is, if, take the ethics one or whatever. But the sexual, don't worry about that. If they do offer it, it's gonna be virtual, or they'll come here and do everybody at the same
I remember we
the
had,
same time, but
we had to sign in that you were in there and they,
right, well, and that's the thing. We've all taken it, what, 2-3 times? And then I know you've taken it at least once. Now you've taken, so their records are not up to date and complete.
we've got a closed meeting later. Let's keep it. Any other old business? Any new business? Seeing none. Do announcement and disclosures. We'll start at far end. Anything to disclose?
Yes.
Okay.
County Executive Julian Jones
Did you donate?
did.
I need to know how much. I'm sorry. 100, okay. Did anybody hear the budget hearing? Because Councilman Jones spoke very highly of the election board and our whole team during the budget hearing. Well, you were there. You were sitting next to
He
me.
texted me and said,
Yeah.
"You got it looking good over there."
Yeah, so, so during our bid, no questions about money, but they gave us, Councilman Jones
Yeah,
did.
he called us out during and then he texted me on the side.
Yeah. So, okay, I got you.
Closure for me.
None, or no, okay.
None and no, none for me either.
None for me.
None for me.
And Al said no, right?
He did.
I'm trying to write fast. Okay. Okay.
Although Julian did buy us an ice cream. We're at an event.
Yeah, but I think it's
Exactly.
$20.
Yeah.
Was it, how expensive was ice cream? It was more than $20.
$4. Yeah. He snuck up behind us and said, I got it. We were at an event, so.
Yeah.
All right, nothing there. Just for the records, July 23rd, 2025, not 20245.
Yeah, I corrected it on today's copy, not the or that one, I'm sorry
Oh,
about.
no, you're good. I'm looking at the old one.
That's.
Just a reminder, that'll be our next meeting. If we need to cancel any meetings down the road, we always do that. Does anybody have anything else for our open meeting? If not,
July 23rd is going to be in person.
okay. If not, now I gotta remember, do we motion to adjourn or do we motion to go into?
So it's up to you. You can say that, that there's no further, regular meeting business. So directly after the closed meeting, we'll adjourn.
Nobody has any other business, right, for the open meeting? So then, if everybody's okay, we can close the open meeting and take a 5-minute break and come back for the closed meeting. Does that make sense?
So, but.
All right, so who's gonna take, who will make a motion for us to adjourn?
I make the motion for Baltimore County Board of Elections to adjourn.
And come back at 11:55 for a close. So you're gonna he can put it together as close this one and open, or you gotta?
I'll write it in 2 separate motions.
All right.
Yep. Eric motion, who second?
I
second. Laverne got it.
Close, adjourn our meeting. And all in favor of closing? Right. And then you'll make the same motion to open a closed meeting in 5 minutes and 5 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to open open the closed meeting, right?
Yeah.
Closed meeting at
11:55.
55 PM.
Yeah.
PM?
Yeah.
Because if it's PM, we need some drink.
11:55 PM.
We need food and drinks.
And Laverne, you'll second that motion again? Perfect. So see you guys in 7 minutes.
Yes.
And I will be taking